and we will pray. Aretha Franklin, we all know Aretha Franklin, and she sang a song, Respect. And that song made millions of dollars. And this morning I want to say, respect one another. I always tell my children, I have 2 more sons, and I always tell them, respect, manners and respect take you through the world. And we have to respect those that have authority over us, whether we like it or not. Let us respect one another. Respect is the key. I always tell my members them in my church, I was pastoring for over 30 years, that there's one chief in here. I'm the chief and the rest is Indians. So there's one chief and the rest is Indians. So you got to follow and respect leadership. Amen? Amen? Okay, let us read the scripture reading this morning. Ephesians Chapter 6, beginning at verse 10. He said, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Madam Speaker, put on the whole armor of God that he may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor, not half, the whole armor of God, that we may be able to stand in the evil days. Having done all, still stand. Bow your heads. Let us pray. Remember, respect is the key. Father God, in the name of Jesus, God, we thank you, God, for this day, God. We thank you, God, for we gather together in this house, God. God, we come against every obstacle right now, God, for the agenda of this day, God. God, we bind up everything what don't look like you in the name of Jesus. God, we ask you, God, to bless from the head to the tail right now, God. God, and we ask you, God, to intervene upon us this morning, God. Have thy own way, God. We decree and we declare miracles upon this country. We decree and we declare blessing right now, God. We ask you, God, to move right now in the name of Jesus. Whatever we do in this place today, God, we pray, God, we'll do it in decency and in order. Have thy own way in the midst right now. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Ghost. And children, thou hast taught us to say, our Father,
what's in heaven,
hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, your power and your glory, forever and ever. Amen. May the peace of God be with you, that passes all understanding.
Honorable members, the Honorable Member for Marco City would like to make a short communication as it relates to matters that would have happened on Monday, the 29th of November, and I have allowed him to do so. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, by way of Madam Speaker, we believe on this side that certainly all of us have rights and responsibilities. One, we have a right as members of the opposition to get up and address any issue that is of national importance, as long as we are framing the discussion in a manner that is beneficial to the public and conforms to the decorum and the rules of the House. In the course of doing so, as we have expressed before, we expect that the tone and tenor of members, Madam Speaker, and anyone who addresses the discussion would be, in fact, respectful, and that we similarly, in discharging our responsibility, would do the same. I want to reiterate, the opposition intends to share our views candidly, and we will do so whether from our seat or on our feet. We will do so respectfully. We also expect that whenever points are being made, all of us in here are adults. So we're expecting the tone of those points that are being made to be made, Madam Speaker, in that spirit. We have an obligation, as you've rightly said, for us to conduct ourselves, all of us, in a manner that the public would be proud. And I want to say a special thanks to the lead of government business who took the time at the end of the last session, along with Madam Speaker and some of our members, to have a candid discussion about what concerns all of us. And that is the level of debate that must occur in this House. And we all commit to making sure that that occurs. Two final things, Madam Speaker. With respect to cell phones, which is a working instrument, and computers, it is for us a non-negotiable in terms of our rights to use them being impeded in any way. It is not uncustomary for persons, while checking for material that is relevant to the debate, to have something go off inadvertently. It's happened on both sides in this House. So we only ask that maybe some members who may not be as familiar with the devices do some workshops to correct inability to turn off quickly or to keep your volume down. But Madam Speaker, we need to do the people's work. And anything that assists us in that regard, we are greatly appreciative if our rights to do so is not at all impeded on. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, in our last sitting before suspension on Monday 29th, we were debating a compendium of bills, and I expect that we are ready to proceed. As many. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Freetown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It appears that the Lord works in mysterious ways, starting from the chaplain and then from my cousin, the member for Marco City, expressing views about what happened the last time we met. While I agree wholeheartedly with the chaplain, I do not agree wholeheartedly with the member for Marco City, and I will address it shortly. But Madam Speaker, I rise and express my gratitude to the good people of the great constituency of Freetown, who I represent in this place, for the edification of members, including the former competent authority. The bounds of Freetown are Paradise Island and Athol Island in the north, Village Road and Blair Estates in the east, Wolf Road in the south, and Sayers Hill in the west. Before I begin my contribution to the bills, Madam Speaker, I would wish to express my solidarity with the 16 days of activism against gender violence. And Madam Speaker, I would wish your indulgence to just, in this place, define what today is regarded as violence. And I do so from the Domestic Violence Protection Orders Act, which is a part of our revised law. And in particular, Section 2, the definition of domestic violence, and it says includes. So that means some things that aren't listed here are also domestic violence, but domestic violence includes physical, sexual, emotional or psychological or financial abuse committed by a person against a spouse, partner, child, or any other person who is a member of the household or dependent. And so, Madam Speaker, I don't want us just to focus on sexual abuse or physical abuse, because abuse today is defined much broader than that. And in particular, the Act provides that emotional or psychological abuse means a pattern of behavior of any kind, the purpose of which is to undermine the emotional or mental well-being of a person, including persistent intimidation by the use of abusive or threatening language, depriving that person of the use of his property, interfering with or damaging the property of the person, the forced confinement of the person, making unwelcome and repeated or intimidatory contact with a child or the elderly relative of the person. And finally, financial abuse is defined as a pattern of behavior of a kind, the purpose of which is to exercise coercive control over or exploit or limit a person's access to financial resources so as to ensure financial dependence. So, Madam Speaker, as we all pledge, as we all are doing, solidarity with the days of activism against violence, gender-based violence, we must all come to realize the extent of it. And so not just focus on physical or sexual abuse, but focus on the person who was abused in their finance to make them compliant with unreasonable demands. To focus on the person who is subject to psychological abuse. We must, in this modern age, be more focused and deliberate in how we address violence. Now, Madam Speaker, on to the next matter that I foreshadowed, and that's the matters that were addressed by the leader of the opposition. And Madam Speaker, the chaplain has already set out that we are here to set a good example. I would say at the very least, not set a bad example. When His Excellency, the Governor General, set out to us the books that we have to consider in discharging our duties here, the first book he mentioned is the Holy Bible. I assure the chaplain that I am not angling for his job, but I would wish to read in this place Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 7. And St. Paul writes to the Romans, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authority, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath, to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. And finally, chaplain, if respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. My training over law school and my practice for 30 years, and this would be familiar to every lawyer in this place. And this is where I agree with Marco City. In every place, there must be someone in authority. In this place, Madam Speaker, you are that authority. Just as across the way when I appeared in court, the judge was the authority. Whether I agreed with him or her or not, a judge cannot be wrong in his own court. And this is your court, Madam Speaker. And you see,
The chair recognizes the honorable member from Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We're a very religious community, and since Scripture was invoked, I thought it's important to make an intervention, not on Scripture. I try to stay in my lane, but in terms of the rules of the House. Madam Speaker, I was a bit surprised to hear the member reference ruler, particularly since all of us in here, we ran because we wish to be the servants of our people as opposed to rulers. But there is a book called Rules of Procedure of the Honorable House of Assembly of the Bahamas, and it is possible for anyone to violate the rules of procedure. When those rules of procedures, a member believes their rights have been infringed upon, they have an obligation and a right to raise objection, even if they're raising objection with the chair who presides over the House. So this business, Madam Speaker, of any one person, including the Speaker, being able to make a ruling that is absolutely unquestionable is ultra-virus, to borrow your term, of the rules and procedures of the House. And I just want to make that clear because I think the public understands that there is no absolute rule in this place by any individual.
Thank you, honorable member.
I'll forgive the member for Marcos City because he confessed that he wished to stay in his lane with Scripture, regardless of how much of a servant leader you wish to be. You have to lead. It's royal you. So regardless of how much of a servant leader we all wish to be, we must lead. Regardless of how many objections you make, once there is a ruling, there is a ruling. And the laws that govern this place says that the Speaker's ruling cannot even be challenged in that other place. That is the law. I've had occasion to have to look at it for the last 31 years of my life. Now, Madam Speaker, it is important that rules are obeyed because crime, after all, which plagues us, is just breaking the rules. And crime in this country is being driven now by a lack of civility. We are not civil to one another. And so when we have disagreements, we pick up the gun, we pick up the knife, we get abusive, and abuse ends at that. And so if we are to set good examples, or at least not set bad ones, we have to understand that a lack of civility drives crime. We have to understand that crime is on its face simply a failure to respect, obey, and follow the rules. Now, it is one thing for us to say to the young person in the inner city that they must follow the rules, they must do what the rules say. If we in this place do not show by our example that we are prepared to do it, it is not a matter, as Marco City says, that is debatable. It is a matter that simply is. And so I would hope that what we have experienced on Monday does not repeat itself. In my ministry, I've had occasion to have to relate with the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, and the men and women have a very simple concept, and it is mission failure. If you do not accomplish your objective, you have failed in your mission. Excuses are just an explanation for failure. That is what an excuse is. And so we're to have no excuses in this place about not following the rules. I may find myself to be greatly in disagreement with you, Madam Speaker, but I'd have to suck it up, accept the ruling, and follow it. That is what we tell our young people, that it's not a matter of whether they like the rules or agree with the rules, that the rules are there to be followed. And if we're to be good examples, we'd better get to the business of practicing what we preach. With that off my chest, Madam Speaker, I move to the supplementary budget. The Ministry of National Security, as I set out in my maiden speech, has a number of agencies. The supplemental budget was kind to us in many ways. We have actually experienced an increase in our recurrent estimates by about $2.1 million. Now, the reason for that is just basically poor planning by the administration that preceded us and is responsible for the budget. You see, Madam Speaker, this increase of $2.1 million is made up basically of two items. The first relates to COVID enforcement, and the second relates to expenses related to electronic monitoring of persons on bail and audit monitored by the courts. We entered lockdown, Madam Speaker, if my memory doesn't fail me, March of 2020. This budget that the supplemental budget addresses was passed in this place in 2021, more than a year after we entered lockdown. It was therefore completely foreseeable that the COVID enforcement unit would require the level of funding that the supplementary budget now makes for it. In fact, we've had all sorts of references about the good management of the pandemic that the side now opposite claimed for itself. So it is with amazement that we found persons without contracts, as I'm gathering we find across all government agencies, persons without contract who are responsible for enforcing these rules that we have put on our people. And that is so to the tune, Madam Speaker, of about $400,000 for the balance of the budget year. It was also reasonably foreseeable, Madam Speaker, when the competent authority shut down the courts and trials could not proceed, that there being constitutional guarantees of a reasonable trial, although the competent authority declared that he might have to break the Constitution at some time, our judges of the Supreme Court never do. And so it was reasonably foreseeable that persons would be admitted to bail because they could not get to trial. And it was therefore reasonably foreseeable that the police would require for our safety and security that they be electronically monitored. And it ought to have been foreseen that the cost of this monitoring would increase as it in fact has increased. And so, Madam Speaker, it is good that the Minister of Finance, the member for Cat Island, San Salvador, and Ramkey has seen fit to address that in the budget of my ministry, and we are grateful. The COVID enforcement team, who I met, all with fear that they would be sent home, can rest assured that this government has made provision for it. Madam Speaker, you know, I think the member for Kalani said in his contribution that we should come up with viable plans as opposed to touring. I found that amazing, since every day I picked up the newspaper in the beginning of that previous administration, the member for Kalani was traveling somewhere, doing something that couldn't relate to any ministry because he didn't have any ministry. And so that was very rank coming from him. But for the edification of the public, Having been to Inagua for the migrant circumstance, Dr. Darwell can well, the minister, the member for Tall Pines, can well explain why he himself had to go to see these places to believe that they could be left in such a condition. To speak to the people, to find out exactly what is needed, and more importantly, to be able to properly plan. And so, Madam Speaker, I wholly agree with the member for Kalani. You really should have been not only making viable plans as opposed to touring, but executing those plans. And so I've already had occasion to advise this country that $7,000 a month of the people's money was paid for a very good plan. A tag to enforce quarantine, very necessary during the pandemic. When we came to office, I met the bill being religiously paid, but the technology not being used at all. And the first question to me by the persons in my ministry was, do we cancel this contract because it's expiring in March of 2022 and we have not used the technology at all? Well, I can assure the member for Kalani that when I put that question to the member for Tall Pines, he very quickly told me no. And we will be using the technology. So not only do we in government today make viable plans, but we execute them. It's almost like faith without works is dead, eh? Good plans without execution is just a waste of the people's money. Madam Speaker, the former competent authority, when he was referring to the VAT issue, described me as argumentative.
Withdrawn.
And, well,
So you cannot use it, Madam Speaker. Withdrawn. You cannot use it.
I'm about to explain, if the member for Kalani will permit. I took no objection to that. The member for Fort Charlotte took objection to that. I take no objection to that description of me because I am, in fact, argumentative. Argumentative, Madam Speaker, is defined as using or characterized by systematic reasoning. That is what I have been doing for the last 31 years in my career. And I am not about to disavow it now. You see, Madam Speaker, systematic reasoning tells me this. The member for Kalani, when seeking to launch an attack on the government's VAT policy, seemed in the wringing of his hand to talk about the people in Freetown who have to go to the store every day to shop because they don't have refrigeration, because they're struggling that they have to buy food every day. I wish he had remembered that when he locked these same people in their homes, not permitting them to go to the public pump for weeks at a time. Where was your heart then, Kalani? So do not come and believe that we will listen to this and take it lightly. A man is known by his works, not by his words.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, anyone going on the record so it's just no misunderstanding that during lockdowns, member would note that we have had a food program in place and we ensured that there were adequate supplies provided for the Bahamians at large.
Thank you, honourable member.
I hear Kalani. Lots of people hear Kalani, and I'd leave it at that. My argumentative nature, Madam Speaker, tells me that if the other side called an early election because they saw stiff winds ahead and they had to get a new mandate, that really and truly, as Bahamian people, because we are some of the most intelligent people in the world, and I arrive at that conclusion having studied in the mother country, England, having traveled widely, Bahamians are sufficiently intelligent to listen to what you say and analyze it. So when we are told that we went to the polls early during a surge in infections in the pandemic because there was stiff winds ahead, surely all of us must consider exactly what was the mandate the other side was seeking to get. When one looks at their manifesto 2021, and I would invite everybody to go and read it on their website as I did, you don't see any proposed mandate in it that is to address stiff winds ahead. In fact, when you read it, there's a lot of backs patting, almost enough to dislocate the arms, saying we've done very well. This is what we're going to do next. No indication of stiff winds at all. And so what, as intelligent, argumentative people, are we to make of that? What exactly did they require a fresh mandate to execute that they could not wait to execute about the middle of next year? Now, the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, who I think he would also admit to being argumentative, he, by systematic reasoning, deduced that it must be about taxation policy. And I would tend to agree with him. But so that the public can know, when the side opposite reads from 21, a list of 21 things, and says that VAT going on them at 10%, but going down on everything else by 2% is going to disadvantage the poor, the people who have spoken to me from Freetown have one very simple thing to tell you. Don't tell them what they can eat. Don't tell them that they can't eat fresh fruit. Don't tell them that they can't eat chicken thighs and pork chop ends, which require refrigeration, which is why they go for them daily. Don't tell them that the paper bags, they call them the shells, that's your $1, your 99-cent breakfast goes in, is now cheaper by 2%. And the cheapest thing in the 99-cent breakfast is the grits. Don't tell them when this is cooked on gas. Don't tell them what to eat, and give them some respect that they go to the food store and they see their bill. Don't disrespect persons who are struggling, who are currently paying 12% VAT that you put on gas. That is disrespectful. Just because people are struggling is no reason to disrespect them. And for your edification, there are many things between corned beef, caviar, and steak. And poor people know about everything in between corned beef, caviar, and steak, including chicken foot, which goes in sauce, and pig's feet, which goes in sauce. Stop disrespecting poor Bahamian people. Stop telling them they have to eat and cannot eat fresh fruits, and their children cannot have the Little Debbie snacks. Stop doing that. It's disrespectful. Now, You know, one wouldn't expect much more. And I see my time running, so I really need to make some points, because we in this party found out that when you let untruths go unanswered, they get legs of themselves. There was a suggestion that in the VAT amendment bill, we didn't consult anybody. We didn't rely on anything widely. Well, let's set the context of it. When VAT was introduced at 7.5% on just about everything, there was the widest consultation, there was deep study, and the study resulted in saying you put it on just about everything. Where it impacted less fortunate people, you provide support, which we did and which we know how to do through the RISE program. The party opposite campaigned with their leader saying only unimaginative people raise taxes. Having been elected resoundingly, I mean, they beat us bad, eh? They beat us dead bad. And having been elected, the first thing they do is raise VAT to 12% without much study, without much consultation, and reverse the good advice that it should be basically across the board. And now they tell us that facing stiff winds ahead, that was not an indication that, contrary to what they say, that they intended to raise the tax. They would have us believe that. Well, you know, my grandma used to tell me, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And the Bahamian people were not fooled a second time. So it is just very clear that the PLP relies in government on study. We are intellectual about it. Even in this exercise, you've heard the member for Cat Island, Rumkey and San Salvador talk about studies from the University of the Bahamas. That's our tertiary institution. That is where our smart children go. You really should listen to what your smart children tell you. And so this concept that there wasn't an intellectual approach and there was some rush to judgment is yet another untruth that this party will not let stand. We studied before we acted. You did not. That is what history shows. And so it is just very clear that the Bahamian people ought not to be misled with that. Before I take my seat as time runs, Madam Speaker, I have heard in this place a lot about victimization. And you know, that is very right, coming from the other side. You see, before I gave up going to court to come here, I represented gaming board workers who were terminated for redundancy by the other side, who then hired a number of persons to fill those spaces and promoted others. We are addressing that. But let me help you, Marco City and Long Island. If you fire somebody, put your person in their job, and that is victimization, the law permits the person you fired to be reinstated. And so when your person is moved, that is not victimization. That is correcting the wrong that you have done. So let us stop hearing this nonsense about victimization of persons who in some cases we've come in and you have no contract for them. You can find no cabinet or conclusion approving their engagement. And you're confronted with persons who said they just kicked me off my job and gave it to this other person. Let's be honest about this in the debate. The Bahamian people are watching, and we on this side will not allow anyone to lie on us and it go unanswered again. Madam Speaker, the bill to reduce VAT to 10% is supported by Freetown, as argumentative as I am.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just for a moment, let me allow our acting PM to take her residence. Madam Speaker, before I begin my contributions, I wish to first start off with bringing some condolences to some families in the constituency of Elizabeth. First, I wish to bring condolences to the family of Victor Juju Johnson. Juju was a great man. He influenced many through his love of art and junkanoo. In addition, he was a great craftsman, responsible for many of the costumes we love and celebrate during the junkanoo festivities. He also was a great part of my life as he tailored some of the gowns for my wedding and tailored the suit I wore to christen my daughter. It was great sadness when I heard the news of his passing, and I extend my heartfelt condolences to the family. I wish also to bring condolences to the family of Swanson Miller Bridgewater, a beautiful person, the sister of Shanique Miller, host of Beyond the Headlines, and Cloyd Miller, who has been a great supporter of mine. And it was such sadness, sad news when I heard also of her passing. And my thoughts and prayers are with the family during this time of mourning her untimely death. It is with great sadness I share these condolences today. Today, Madam Speaker, I stand in solidarity with the Zonta and the Worlds and everyone in support of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I am adorned with many ribbons today. The orange is the fight to end violence against women. The white is the fight against all acts of violence, and the red ribbon is to bring awareness on this World AIDS Day to the continued fight against the spread of AIDS and HIV. Madam Speaker, today, before I go on in my speech, Madam Speaker, I just also wanted to give you some support, to know that I am here to support you. As a woman, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you in your role as a leader of this House. And I recall another person that sat in that seat and the way they treated and spoke to a female member representative who now sits today as acting PM. And what was interesting is, we look across the room, everyone opposite me was present. I did not see the fight that I saw against you. And so I give you my support. I stand with you. You are doing your job, and do not be deterred. Madam Speaker,
The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Madam Speaker, what concerns me about the intervention made, and we understand how politics go, is the member seeks to inject into this particular discussion a gender-based position by members opposite. And Madam Speaker, I'm standing on a point of order.
Speaker, I will not allow him to
Madam,
continue,
Madam
and
Speaker,
I will not inject
except,
I said.
Madam Speaker, I'm standing on a point of order. Are you recognizing another point of order, Madam Speaker?
I said they sat in the house.
Okay, Madam Speaker, do I still have the floor? Or do you wish for me? Thank you.
But
You did not speak up.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for protecting me, for protecting my right to speak, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, again,
I did not say that.
the member for Angliston is a valiant warrior who, in every instance, she felt as if she was being aggrieved, took a firm position, and I applaud that. I think the member knows very well what my position is. What I am concerned about is the attempt to give the impression that the protection that, Madam Speaker, that you deserve from anyone seeking to disparage you, we support. And I made that very clear at the beginning of the presentation. So I think that the discussion about respect for the chair is not an issue of gender. It is a difference of opinion on whether or not we believe we are spoken to in a particular way. There are no misogynists on this side. There are no chauvinists on this side. And I don't believe in this house that members opposite are misogynists or chauvinistic. So any subtle attempt by the other side to inject that the exchange between Madam President as well as any member of this side has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with a basic appeal for no bias against us, the appropriate tone to be used when speaking to us. And that is all we desire, Madam Speaker.
yeah, the chair recognizes the honourable member.
Marco might be missing the point raised by the member for Elizabeth.
Yes.
Because the truth is, that's exactly the point. The point was, it's not gender. It was a member sitting in this parliament, and the speaker at the time did not allow that member and did not protect that member. What she's suggesting is no one today who's arguing said anything about it. That's the point she's making. The question really is, did you get up? Did you defend her right? Did you defend her at the time? The answer is, I think, obviously, no.
No.
No. The chair recognizes the honourable member from Mount.
Thank you very much. There were a number of points raised by Angliston. I simply did not agree with the particular position. At the same time, let me make this clear. Let me make this clear. Nor did I agree with the then speaker, who I spoke in the public domain. Let me complete it. I spoke in the public domain about sentiments raised that I thought were inappropriate. So I'm on the public record with respect to that. So it was not my duty, for example, to defend every member. Let me finish. Nor did I believe the speaker was doing it based on gender. That's the point. It was not on the basis of gender. So, and again, I'm on the public record having spoken out about matters that I disagreed with respect to the speaker.
I have one question to ask.
The chair recognizes.
Sure, I'll be happy to answer.
Madam Speaker, to ask the member from Marco City. When a vote of no confidence was brought against the speaker, did you vote against him?
No, let me
Did you vote against him? The question is, did you vote against him? That position was raised. When the matter.
Is the mic on, Madam Speaker?
It is.
Okay. No. What is the point of the question you're asking, so I can understand the context, please?
The question that I'm asking is predicated upon his behavior. The behavior you said you spoke about publicly, and the attacks made on the then member at the time. The question I'm simply asking you, when the motion was brought to the House of Assembly, did you vote against it, or were you a part of those who amended it and spoke in support of the speaker?
Thank you very much. Wonderful question. Because you allowed me to address issues that I would love to talk about. The speaker, at the time the speaker was embroiled in a conflict, I had some difficulties with the speaker, but none of those difficulties rose to a level that I was prepared to vote against the speaker. Just one moment. That I was prepared to vote against the speaker. Over time, that relationship evolved. And again express on the public record when those concerns arose what my position was relative to the speaker. So at that point, I did put on the public record. But at that point, no, I did not.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Englishton.
Brought into the debate. Let me just say, Madam Speaker, the last speaker, I think that the member for Elizabeth made some factual points. We had a speaker previously, I sat in this parliament. The country saw the egregious conduct of that former member. Yep. The egregious conduct, such that I couldn't even say the word straw market. I was banned from doing so. And I'm not sure what was going on in his head when he saw a woman getting up and being strong in her positioning. So I can't vouch for him, maybe you can. But I think while you didn't see something rise to the occasion, the nation did. You were late in finding that out. But let me just say, I think the factual point the member for Elizabeth makes is this. During that period when the nation saw it, and you didn't see it. Today we do have a woman speaker. I mean, it's factual. That's not bringing gender in. It's a fact. It's a fact. But all of a sudden now you take some righteous positioning on positions taken by the speaker. And the only point being made is there appears to be a level of hypocrisy and disingenuous positioning on the matter. I think that's the only, let me just finish. That's the only point that's being made. Now you could disagree or not disagree, but I was here. And that was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in this parliament because I could not speak. I was treated differently. I was oppressed. And so for you, and the nation saw it. And you know, that's the same speaker. When you were government and you sat in the government, you spent a whole day in debate to name me. When the speaker called people powder puff, attacked the wives of members, and the most egregious language and assault and attacks, but you didn't think that it rose to that level. So I'm shocked that you see anything that happened in this parliament post-September 2021 that makes you so uncomfortable. That's the only point I think being made.
Yes. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Mark.
What is interesting about these debates, and this is why it's so wonderful, we know each other. This is a very small country, Madam Speaker. And so I know the member for West End and Bimini and Angliston. And I know some of the fundamental things that they disagree with, even in their own organization and governance. But in the parliament, where they had an opportunity to litigate those issues, they would not have litigated those issues because for them, that was not the appropriate time or place to do so. Let me just finish the point because I believe Anderson took some time to get to the point. So it's interesting that any member is expected to litigate all of the issues that are raised when they are seated in the parliament. And Angliston and West End and Bimini knows my views on most of the issues the speaker addressed or even the government addressed. But we have a lot of time now where I'm able to take each of those issues and put on the record what the member for Marco City position is on that. Not the government then, but the Free National Movement now under my leadership. So we'll have a lot of time to litigate a number of those issues. A lot of time. No, I am consistent. I am consistent. Because again, on this side, and when I sat in the chair, I conceded those things that the Progressive Liberal Party did that made sense. That in my view, we ought to have continued. So no, don't stray. And so I'm saying, I was consistent. I was consistent. What I have not heard is the member for Angliston, who in fact, chances are the speaker engaged with her a lot. Why? Because she was the one who was most vigorous in defending the PLP's cause. So naturally, there would have been exchange between both of them. Certainly the member for Cat Island, the member for Exuma, the member for Andros was not as vigorous in terms of the exchange. So maybe that's part of the issue. I don't think it was a gender issue. So I'm simply, no, I don't know what his motivation is. But what I'm saying is it would be useful, Angliston, if you are asking for consistency, I would also expect that you would concede some of the things done under the Minister administration as well. Were there some mistakes? Yes. Some missteps? Yeah. Were there anything good and useful that was done? That's consistency as well. Would you not agree?
No, what
Chair recognizes the member.
Madam Speaker, what we're talking about is not the general record of anybody. You know, it's a very specific issue. You know, we're talking about the Speaker, okay? And I'm saying that you are exhibiting some positioning that is shocking to me when I saw the positioning you took when the whole nation watched in awe at the nature, the behavior of the last Speaker. So that's all. That's the only point. We're talking about the Speaker. That's all. And I think that, you know, you say it's not gender and who's gender. We don't know what's going on in the minds of anyone. But we would like this is a new Speaker, and we would like you to exhibit at least the level of patience that you seem to have demonstrated with behavior that shocked the nation. Shocked the nation, but you didn't think it rose to the level. So that's all we're asking of you.
Oh, we're very patient.
Okay, good.
Impatient about. What we are impatient about is being spoken to like children. We're not going to tolerate that. Or what we're impatient about is when accused on that side, the microphones are turned off and the public cannot hear our response. That is what we're impatient about. Other than that, we respect the Speaker, and we will support the Speaker, as I've stated. We'll support the Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member.
Madam Speaker, I think we should continue with the debate because we are becoming impatient now, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Very interesting discussion.
Yes.
I know a quote I grew up hearing that says something, it goes something like, a hit dog will holler. You know that one, Madam Speaker? That quote. Madam Speaker, let me carry on in my contribution. I rise today, my point was very much made. I rise today on behalf of the Elizabeth constituency in support of the 2021-2022 supplementary budget, the first budget of this new day government. This budget represents our first critical steps towards reversing the damage done by the previous administration and steering this nation towards a better, brighter future. Anytime I look at a government's budget, I always ask, what's in it for the people? With this budget, I think it is clear that the Davis administration is a government that puts the Bahamian people first. And I am proud to stand here today as a part of a government that is truly prioritizing the needs of our people. So many Bahamians will be assisted by the budget we have put forward this week. When the member for Kalani said that there would be a focus on helping people in the government's next term, I think he was talking about the PLP coming into power. Under the Davis administration, it's finally the people's time. I hope the members opposite are taking notes. Madam Speaker, as always, it is an honor and a privilege to serve the people of the Elizabeth constituency as their member of parliament. It is my Elizabeth people who motivate me every day to do all that I can to make a positive contribution to my country. Whenever I may be feeling tired, I think about their stories, all that they have gone through, and all of the challenges that they have overcome. They are my inspiration, and I want them to know that they will always have me as their ally. Madam Speaker, you know what the Davis administration has in common with a FedEx driver? We both deliver. We have not been in office very long, but it is astonishing what we have accomplished in just a few weeks. And I want the people of the Bahamas to know that there's much more on its way. We promised we would end the emergency orders, and we did it. We promised we would replace the emergency orders with effective public health legislation, and we delivered that too. We promised to roll out free testing, and despite all the doubts expressed from the members opposite, we delivered. Yes. We said that we would decrease VAT from 12% to 10%, and here we are, delivering on that promise too. The list goes on and on. But it's become clear that the Davis administration is not here to waste time. While in the past, we've seen governments win landslides and then spend their first year just slapping up their mouths and playing the blame game, our actions are speaking louder than our words. Madam Speaker, this supplementary budget seeks to accomplish three major objectives. The first objective is to align the government's budget with the Davis administration's ministerial portfolio and agenda. The second objective is to lay the foundation for the fiscal reforms necessary to turn the government's financial situation around. The third objective of this budget is to bring immediate and direct relief to the Bahamian people during a time of great need. Each and every one of these objectives is needed to sustain our economic growth and take the country in a positive direction for the short, medium, and long term. We are striking the balance between moving forward with our agenda, supporting the Bahamian people through difficult times, while at the same time addressing the government's fiscal situation. That is the type of multi-pronged approach and responsible governance that has been missing over the past 4 years. We all remember that first budget in 2017 when the F&M government, believing the myth of their own greatness, began mercilessly cutting budgets, sending Bahamians on the employment line, and focusing on so-called austerity measures, boasting about fiscal responsibility. Years later, Madam Speaker, these painful economic stagnating moves have yielded very poor results. And we warned them, Madam Speaker. Their second budget in 2018 was more of the same. Both the leader and the deputy warned them about their ill-advised, singularly focused fiscal strategies. During a time of global growth and prosperity, their administration was not fully leveraging our potential for economic growth. Instead, they raised VAT by 60%, cut more budgets, sent more Bahamians home, and bragged about it. Meanwhile, they made no meaningful reforms to make the government more efficient, and they never delivered on all of their high talk about transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption measures. There were no major capital development projects under their watch. They didn't even build a single school. You would think that a government who only raised taxes, cut budgets, and fired people would at least have a lot of savings, right? You would think that they would have significantly lowered the national debt or at least narrowed the government's budgetary deficits. But no, under their governance, we saw record levels of borrowing as they took the nation straight towards a 1-to-1 debt to GDP ratio. Of course, they like to say that Dorian and COVID-19 are the reasons why they could not accomplish anything. But let's be real. They had 3 budget cycles before Dorian and had nothing to show for it. That is 3 out of the 5 national budgets they would bring to Parliament. What in the world were they waiting on? They have gone down as the least accomplished government in the history of the Bahamas. The only people who were happy under their leadership were political insiders and their rich friends. Everyone else failed by their lackluster governance. What a shame. The Bahamian people deserve better.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Killarney.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, point of order. The member mentioned that we would go down as the least accomplished government in history. I would only like the member to provide the evidence and the scientific data. If not, kindly withdraw the statement. You cannot just come off the cuff.
The chair recognizes the honourable member, please.
Madam Speaker, I will carry on, not wasting my time. Madam Speaker, the tale of the Menace administration is an instructive one. The success of a government is defined by year 1, not year 4 or year 5. It is in the first year that the groundwork is laid for the following 4 years. Considering the ambitious plans outlined in the Blueprint for Change, we understood the need for action from day one. This supplementary budget was necessary to keep the momentum going. We also understand that there is a need to implement other financial measures to realize our vision. And as the world can see, we have very different priorities from the previous administration. We know how critical the first year is, and we could not allow ourselves to be bound solely by the previous administration's budget. So the first order of business was making key reallocations to reflect our ministerial portfolio and our year one priorities. In this budget, we have seen the end of the disastrous Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction, which simply duplicated the efforts of existing agencies. It was always astounding to me how quickly the previous administration was able to set up an entire new ministry while taking forever to actually send the Defense Force to help the people of Abaco immediately following the storm. It took them ages to start rebuilding efforts, which they never completed. I just came from Abaco. I don't know where they started. I should have probably said they ain't start yet, because Abaco needs help, and the Davis administration will provide it. But in seemingly no time at all, they had their cronies lined up for new disaster-related jobs and contracts. It is clear where their allegiances lie. Madam Speaker, in this budget, we've seen the government streamline for efficiency, getting inactive people off the education's payroll, removing line items for IDB projects that could not meet projected spending goals, and removing capital projects that cannot be completed this year. We have a reduction of $4 million under the Ministry of Transport and Housing. This was the line item put in by the previous administration's budget under the pretense of actually beginning work on the Prospect Ridge development.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Point of order, matter of information. FEMA had stated, with respect to Abaco and hurricanes throughout the world, FEMA had stated that it takes at least 15 years to rebuild a country or a nation that had been devastated by hurricane. That is clearly demonstrated in the U.S. by New Orleans, Puerto Rico, etc. The data is there. And during our first year, all the infrastructure was completely destroyed. We had to spend $61 million just to get the light facility back. We had to replace 1,400 lampposts to get the wiring back in place. We had to replace the water system. We had to replace bridges. Abaco was divided in half. Individuals could not move from one point to another. Those were priorities. In addition to that, food was provided for individuals while we move along with basic infrastructural needs.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll move on. One person has their story. I may have my story. Then in the middle, there's the truth. So that's his side. Let me go back to where I started, because this was after I spoke on Abaco. We have a reduction of $4 million under the Ministry of Transport and Housing. This was the line item put in by the previous administration's budget under the pretense of actually beginning work on the Prospect Ridge development. Now, I won't belabor this point, as I've already addressed it. But for obvious reasons, given that virtually none of the groundwork was done, there was no need to retain this line item. Madam Speaker, in this supplementary budget, we are putting in place the necessary resources to fix the government's financial situation. That work starts with the establishment of the Public Debt Advisory Committee, comprised of some of our brightest and best minds to come up with better debt management and debt reduction strategies to move this nation away from the fiscal cliff we were headed towards under the previous administration. The Revenue Enhancement Unit will now be fully resourced and equipped to do their work. The Revenue Enhancement Unit will be on the case and reviewing everyone's agenda. So if we want to fully address the government's fiscal situation, we must maximize the revenue gain under the current model. We cannot continue to allow so many millions of dollars to slip through the cracks. Madam Speaker, as the government puts together a revenue policy committee comprised of top economists and financial experts, I'm excited to see what they will come up with. There are a number of reforms to existing laws that are slated for the government's agenda. But what is most exciting is the promise of new reforms and changes to the existing revenue model to create a more equitable taxation system, broaden the tax base, and meet the government fiscal needs. The Davis administration is all about being fiscally responsible, but we also understand that it is nonsensical to fill the public purse while our people are struggling financially. Madam Speaker, there can be no doubt that this budget has prioritized bringing immediate relief to the Bahamian people. The number one topic of discussion has been the VAT reduction. We have always maintained that the VAT reduction accomplished three things. It aligned our VAT model with international best practices. This includes the IMF recommendations, as well as the revenue models simulated by our own local experts. This means that we cannot keep the zero-rated regime in place because it was making our system inefficient and was benefiting the rich more than lower-income households. The VAT reduction The VAT reduction also provided a modest savings at the cash register for the Bahamian people that could be felt with the purchase of every good and service. Once again, the zero-rated items may have been well-intended, but it did not benefit the Bahamian people in the way that the members opposite are claiming. This is not my opinion. The IMF report clearly stated that if you truly want to help your vulnerable populations, then a better approach is to provide direct relief instead of zero-rated VAT items. Finally, lowering VAT across the board also provides a cushion to protect consumers against increasing global costs. Essentially, it stimulates consumption across the board to promote business activity and growth. Madam Speaker, those opposite want us to talk exclusively about that because they think they managed to pounce on the narrative early on with their misinformation. But what they don't like talking about is the fact that the VAT reduction is only one pillar among a number of relief measures we have planned. This supplementary budget contains an increase in pension payments for retirees. For all the noise in the marketplace, I haven't heard one person opposite criticize that move. You know why? Because even the members opposite know that it is a good thing. Even the biased political commentators and social media trolls aren't touching that. They want Bahamian people to be misinformed. They aren't talking about the return of annual increments for civil servants. I guess members opposite knows that bringing it up only highlights their own lack of compassion because it was them who put a pause on all increments in the first place. So to all government workers, you have the previous administration to thank for stagnating your wages while the cost of living increased. Thankfully, though, this Davis administration has corrected that situation. I haven't heard much talk about the 500 lump sum payment or the extension of unemployment benefits either. The members opposite don't like to talk about that part, do they? They are trying to prey on the emotions of the Bahamian people by overemphasizing the point regarding bread basket items, while ignoring the savings that people receive with every purchase made, and completely ignoring the fact that we are providing direct relief to our people. But this Christmas, I am sure that people on the unemployment program will feel the difference when they receive their regular scheduled payment in addition to that extra $500. Even the most bitter Grinch in the F&M has to admit that this Christmas time payment is a good initiative. My advice 10 to the members opposite is to stay quiet and take notes.
The chair recognizes the honorable member.
Member for Western and Bimini, do you believe that that's parliamentary? There are no bitter Grinches over here. We'd appreciate if if the good member would withdraw that comment or refer.
I gotta finish my speech.
Yes, go
Thank you.
Honorable member.
Let me go back to the last line. My advice to the members opposite is to stay quiet and take notes. Let us show you what it really means for it to be the people's time. Madam Speaker, we have delivered these major initiatives without adding a dollar, not even a cent to the projected deficit. This budget is not just about reallocations, it is about using existing line items in effective ways. The Ministry of Transport and Housing is no exception. I can tell you that the government has already approved housing work to begin in Grand Bahama and in Carmichael Road. And after our recent site visit to Abaco and Eleuthera, we expect works to begin as early as possible for those islands in 2022. Our visual assessment has evidenced the fact that there are many lots in subdivisions toward where there are all infrastructure in place. The people of these communities will soon benefit from the fruits of our labor. I was also very pleased and excited about the assessment of Eleuthera and Abaco, where I found a community of people eagerly awaiting home construction so that they can be the beneficiaries. Madam Speaker, we are in the business of getting things done and not just talking about it and giving people lip service. And in that regard, the Department of Housing is moving expeditiously to effectively and efficiently improve on its organizational structure, such that its service delivery is attuned to the needs of the people. The restructuring proposed will improve on its operational capacity by establishing both a consumer complaint section and a customer service unit, all with a view to facilitating customer satisfaction. The complaints unit would be replete with a consumer hotline to facilitate complaints and inquiries, and the customer service unit will seek to establish a physical presence to allow easy access to our housing programs and also improve customer education and awareness. In its quest to facilitate customer outreach, the Department of Housing will provide a one-stop shop of services to its clientele via outreach assessment venues on New Providence and the Family Islands, in addition to direct accessibility to pre-approval for its affordable housing program. Following my tour of the North Abaco and the Marsh Harbor ports, I have sent a team into Abaco from the Port Department to address the disorganization and the dysfunction that we have witnessed when we were on the ground. This team will begin to provide structure and guidance on security risk and provide more organized structures and processes. In the first quarter of next year, I will bring further information as it relates to providing a modern structure and finding a permanent home for the post office. We have also recently reviewed potential building designs and renderings for a new road traffic building, which will include a bus terminal, an inspection passageway for small motor vehicles, and a separate inspection passageway and inspection area for heavy trucks. More detailed information to follow once we complete review by the Cabinet. In the new year, we will be advising of new protocols, which will include a commercial driver's license. Operators of heavy trucks will be required to become certified after a manual testing program. They will be provided with a certificate and a new license that will indicate on the back of their vehicles which they are licensed to operate. We will make provisions to grandfather some drivers with extensive experience into the new system and will provide an appropriate grace period to allow companies to bring their heavy truck drivers in compliance with the new policy. Madam Speaker, we're aiming to raise maritime awareness, build national capacity, and facilitate employment through maritime education. In the Bahamas Maritime Authority, we are organizing shipboard visits for students, as well as sponsoring high school students to enroll in the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps to meet sponsorship and graduate goals. It is noteworthy that the program will produce qualified mariners who would be professional deck and engineer officers with university degrees. There's also a specific push for gender diverse enrollment with strong representation of Bahamian women in this traditionally male-dominated area. We will collaborate with ship owners to provide sea services during training, with potential employment opportunities being extended after the training is complete. A multi-agency approach is advocated as the Ministry of Tourism and Labor are also lobbying the ship owners for employment of personnel within the hospitality industry. Madam Speaker, we are looking for ships to partner with those who are interested in the development of local talent and the local maritime industry as part of their corporate social responsibility goals. Local talent is absolutely essential to the development of a sustainable industry. I would like to thank the Disney Cruise Lines and Royal Caribbean for the scholarship and employment opportunities already offered, and I encourage other Bahamas registered ships to join in on this effort. Madam Speaker, it is obvious that the Ministry of Transport and Housing have a whole lot of going on in this budget period. On the campaign trail, when we said we would be developing blue industries, we weren't joking. What you are hearing today are the first steps towards increased diversification as we drive growth in the blue economy. Madam Speaker, we are off to a great start. But what's even more important than a great start is a great finish. I look forward to the next full budget cycle when we can begin to carry out even more of our agenda. The Davis administration is committed to sustained excellence. We made a vow to the Bahamian people that we would build a more fair and equitable society. We promised that we would bring competent, compassionate leadership for everyone during our governance of the Bahamas. And I want everyone to know that we will approach this task with the same passion, zeal, and enthusiasm in year 5 as we are doing in year 1. We have a team of people who are ready from day 1. No training wheels needed, no on-the-job training required, and I am so proud of what we have been able to accomplish in just a few short months. And I am further encouraged because I know that the best is yet to come. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many? The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central and South Africa.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for allowing me the time to stand in this honorable house. I rise on behalf of the Central and South Africa, a boating capital of the Bahamas. I am a proud and humble sailor, and I will not forget that teamwork is the key. From a young age, I learned to sail, and I've always admired those who have lived to master the wind and waves. The Bahamas has lost one of the best, Captain Lundy Robinson from the Exumas. Please give this legendary Bahamian a moment of silence, for he will be missed dearly. Madam Speaker, I'm encouraged by the Prime Minister Davis's speech on Monday past. This is a man with compassion and a plan to steer this sloop named the Bahamas in these treacherous seas. However, I am reminded of the lack of compassion for Abaco from the previous administration. When I hear of Parks and Beaches receiving an additional $22 million or nearly 150% increase in budget, I am hurt and disturbed. Abaconians still live in tents and trailers in the midst of hurricane season. And that money there could have been used to build and repair homes or much needed capital works in our hurricane ravaged communities.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Not to stir the honorable member. In my contribution, I will illuminate some of the concerns and questions regarding funding at the authority. But let me just state for the record that those funds, thousands of Bahamians, small businesses benefited from those, hard-working Bahamians. So I think it's very important for us to appreciate. It's very important for us to appreciate that it did not go into thin air, and that it benefited, thousands of Bahamians who were out of jobs because of this pandemic. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Africa.
When these monies were ramped up in the parks and beaches, the 3 months previous to election was the time that we were in the midst of hurricane season. Previous to this would have been the time to help your fellow Albaconians, your fellow Bahamians, your people of need, suffering. This is yet another example of the lack of empathy and blatant disregard for Central and South Alberta. Madam Speaker, Albaconians constantly remind me of the lack of water pressure or often no water more than 2 years after Dorian. Restoration projects were underfunded or not funded at all. Subdivisions like Sweeting's Track with hundreds of Albaconians have no water infrastructure. Roads torn up to fix the water infrastructure and not patched properly or often not patched at all. Domes and trailers, sewage not properly installed and constantly overflowing. Let me advise this good house that the trailers I'm referring to are the government workers that run the various departments in Albaco sitting outside of the government complex. The domes are the hardened tents put there as a temporary structure more than 2 years on that have to be consistently and constantly removed of sewage because that is where the kids play outside. And that is where my people live at this time. I am optimistic that the new chair of Water and Sewage will do what is needed and right.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Long Island.
Madam Speaker, the member for Central and South Africa is misleading this house. The Water and Sewage Corporation, under my tenure in the previous government, embarked upon a number of very critical projects in Abaco. And I have a listing of them. We spent some $16 million or $15 million. You're talking about the 1.5 million Imperial gallon tank in Marsh Harbor in this member's constituency.
Not operational yet.
A 750,000 gallon tank in Treasure Key. Various standby generators. The construction of a pumping station. And these things don't happen overnight. It takes some time to construct. At the time of the election, we were going to bring 2 of those systems on live. However, the day we were flying in to inaugurate those systems, the airport was shut down in Abaco. But there are a number of projects that were undertaken in Abaco, from tanks to replacement of mains on the roads, to seeking to address sewage issues, etc., etc. And the member is fully aware of that.
Thank you, honorable member. And members, may I remind you that we have a member on the floor who's dealing with the people's business. Be mindful of our cell phones once again. Thank you, honorable members. You may continue, Central and South Africa.
The honorable member from Long Island is correct. There is a water plant being built. However, it was not ready to come online as of yet is still missing many parts. When the chairman was there, we toured and saw the good work that the contractor is doing and the best of his ability with the logistical challenges, but still it is not right 2+ years on for us still not to have water to bathe in this time of COVID. And that airport you were speaking of, often when I pass through there coming to this good house, there isn't any water for flushing toilets. May have been one of the reasons why it was out. Public Works in Abaco are struggling to do minor road works like pothole filling in the roads due to lack of tools, workers, and material. Recently, I coordinated with the Public Works and a local hot mix plant to supply material so Public Works can at least fill the most dangerous sections. On the highway, these have directly or indirectly caused many accidents. Accidents and deaths happen on these same roads with no lights, no signage, and the verges uncleared and creeping onto the roadway. The loss of life and property can easily be avoided with proper safety measures and minor maintenance. I would like to thank the ground crew in Abaco from Public Works, Bahamas Power and Light, and Water and Sewage. They go above and beyond to get the job done with little or no support and working with very little. I would also like to thank the many government department workers in Abaco that work in very bad conditions. Some offices with mold, and a lot of the time they're in their own cars doing government business and their own internet, paying for it themselves, and on their own computers. They lack the tools needed to do the country's affairs, particularly in Abaco. Underpaid and often overlooked for elevation for many years. These Abaconians do what they must to perform their duties, and I am grateful. Madam Speaker, Vat tax is a topic that is important to speak of today as it was in 2018, when the previous administration raised it by 60%, 7.5% to 12%. That was felt deeply in Abaco. However, it was sold to us as a way to fund projects and infrastructure and so on and so forth. A quote taken from the Tribune article by Ricardo Wells dated March 31st, 2017 by the Honorable Mr. Minnis from Killarney. Where the VAT money gone? Speaking of us, they abandoned Grand Bahama and the Family Islands. Where the VAT money gone? Roads across the island are filled with potholes and are in disrepair. I now ask the Honorable Member from Killarney, where the VAT money gone? And more particularly, I have to ask on the behalf of Central South Abaco, where has the Dorian relief money gone? Madam Speaker, the Davis administration will reduce the burden on Bahamians and my fellow Abaconians, and will be felt immediately by reducing VAT from 12 to 10%. This will help the fishermen when they need parts for their engines, fishing wire for their pots, and fuel to go out on seas. This will help the small businesses needing takeout containers, receipt paper, and maintenance items to keep their businesses afloat. This will help the mothers and fathers who struggle to put clothes on their children's backs and shoes on their feet. This will help the construction workers that need tools like hammers and saws and ladders and boots to perform the job to feed their family. This will help the taxi drivers that need their vehicles serviced, maintenance done on tires and engines, and daily with fuel. This Reduction will help my fellow Alberconians with parts and maintenance and fuel for their generators because they have no power or when it is often out. A reduction in VAT will immediately benefit Alberconians and Bahamians across this country. This is a bill for all my fellow Bahamians. All my fellow Bahamians. Central and South Alberco supports Prime Minister Davis and appreciate the much needed relief. Madam Speaker, the Special Economic Zone Order, or SERS, is important to Alberco's recovery. We were completely destroyed, and it takes time to rebuild, as the gentleman from Killarney had said. Also, many Alberconians are only recently, many Alberconians are only recently returning home and having to relocate, or only now having the ability to replace vehicles, which was recently reintroduced. It should be extended for more than a few months at a time. It's imperative to have a definitive plan so people can prepare accordingly and know how long they have to utilize these concessions. Many Bahamian business owners are only able to come back now, and many marinas and resorts are not complete and in the early stages of construction. I bring this up because we are a tourism-driven economy, particularly in Alberco, where we are a boating community and we rely on the tourism dollar. I have spoken to the Prime Minister Davis, and this will be extended. Alberco's economy is important to the
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Killarney.
I understand you're giving your Prime Minister credit, but we had already said it would be extended. Because remember, it's extended to December, and then we said it would be carried on. So it was already trained.
Almost doesn't count. Carry on, goodness.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for South and Central and South Alberco.
with a strong definitive plan for long-term growth instead of a few months at a time, Alberco can come back to and further than its former glory. Alberco's economy is important to the Bahamas' financial recovery. Given the proper support, we can be 2 to 3 times larger in economic output than pre-Dorian. Demand is incredibly high, and the support of my colleagues and the Prime Minister to help Alberco is most encouraging. We must be our brother's keepers and work together as a team for the betterment of our great nation. This is highlighted by the many ministers that have recently visited and the ministers that have plans to do so. You see, traveling to Alberco brings a certain light to our challenges and issues at hand. Reading it on paper does not give it the color or the smell that it needs to give the point of what we are dealing with. I thank you, and Central and South Alberco thanks each and every one of you for your support. Madam Speaker, I would like to echo loudly what my colleagues in this great house have said in regards to violence of women, children, and our people. It must stop now. Also, to add to this, it needs to be taught at a young age and distilled in men and boys. I have a young daughter, and I think of this often. These actions against our precious youth are despicable and should be punishable by our most severe penalties. My son will be taught better, and we must better ourselves as a nation. We should, year-round and daily, protect those who cannot protect themselves. Do not plot harm against your neighbor who lives trustfully near you. Proverb 3:29. Madam Speaker, Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis is a great leader and has put together a great team. We have not stopped since the people spoke on September 16th, and we will not. The previous government's budget clearly shows they had little intention to seriously helping Abaco going forward. Abaconians were not buying this time. This was shown by our historical twin PLP win. My colleague, Honorable Kirk Cornish, and I work as a team, and we will uphold our promise to speak for our fellow Abaconians. We speak true and unbending, for we speak for them. We serve in this House of Assembly for the people of the Bahamas and must always look for what is best for the future generations. Thank you to all my supporters and the good people of Central and South Abaco. Madam Speaker, recently there has been an article questioning me giving up my dual citizenship. This is the same pot that was stirred during my campaign and is empty then as it is empty now. I will tell you this, I have never thought myself of anything more than a Bahamian. Immediately after ratification, as PLP Central and South Abaco Standard Bearer, I started and then completed the process to renunciate my other citizenship. I tabled the document and show it was approved July 29th, 2021. Madam Speaker, this is serious business we do here in the House of Assembly. The business of the people. I am only here to speak for my fellow Abaconians.
Order that the document be do lie on
and
the table.
help in any way I can for the betterment of the Bahamas. My duty is sound. My loyalty is clear. After Dorian, I lived in a tent and continued to help my people survive and rebuild while building my house with my two hands. I know firsthand the needs of my fellow Abaconians, and never has my purpose been more defined as to bring Central and South Abaco back better than before. With my teammate in the North, my home will hold true to its name of Great Abaco. Madam Speaker, again, I thank you for allowing me to speak on my second time for my fellow Abaconians. I will continually thank my support team and my wife who have been by my side from the beginning and do so now with great sacrifice. Thank you to my fellow members of Parliament and our Prime Minister, Philip Brave Davis. I would like to acknowledge our acting Prime Minister, for I look up to great Bahamians and leadership as of this. May God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Asmini. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member Kalani.
The member asked, I would not like it to be left on the record where the member said where the VAT money gone. I just want to point out that it would be in the fiscal responsibility report, but just for some clarification. Between up to March of last year, $274.4 million would have been spent, and the breakdown, public health safety would have been 219, and the breakdown is clearly denunciated, and he would be able to review that himself.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Angliston.
I just want to remind the member for Kalani, if he recalls, in the first budget speech, when they said the cupboard was bare and they went on to borrow billions that we cannot see where it went, that it was promised that VAT money would go towards the national debt. That never happened. It never happened. And so I think the question, based on what you say was going to happen, is well placed.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you very
The
much.
Chair recognizes the Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Madam
Line.
Speaker. I would like to belabor this point, but the member would also remember that we were struck with devastation. Irma would have set us back. Dorian would have set us back by well more than $1 billion. Our GDP would have been grossly affected, and COVID would have likewise set us back. And that would have, as I explained just Monday, that would have been the reason we would have had to borrow U.S. currency so that we maintain the parity of the Bahamian dollar and its safety level, so that there'd be no possibility of devaluation, etc.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Engliston.
Just to remind the member that when the government borrowed the US dollars, went on that loan tour, that the IMF said that they were negligent in the borrowing and exposed the country. And I just saw something recently about what happened in Entebbe, Uganda, with the airport, with foreign loans. And the IMF said that the actions of this government have exposed this nation. But I think the member for, yes, the IMF said that. It doesn't, well, I hear what you say ain't gonna happen, but we can be careful that don't happen. But in relation to the member for South Abaco, I think he also asked, where did the Dorian relief money go? And this is a question that the people of Abaco are very concerned about. So and we also want to know where the VAT money went, because you promised to put it to the national debt and it ballooned beyond huge under your watch.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Parliament.
Madam Speaker, I'm certain the member for my member would speak to that. But the member would well know, and I'm going to explain this in layman term, the member would well know that if a business sector was anticipating $15 revenue stream by the end of a particular year, and they'd anticipated that they were going to take $5 of that $15 and pay on debt, and they were struck with devastation, and that revenue stream had decreased rather than $15, they now have $3. It is impossible to take $5 and put on a national debt. That's basic language, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Engliston.
Because I'm one of those who have the benefit of having been in here. When the former Minister of Finance was reminded of this pledge, he said he never made the pledge. And I was able to demonstrate in the record where he said that. So now to say that, that you really was going to do it, but you couldn't do it, when the other day you say you never said you was going to do it, seems a very contorted story. And I'm, with no disrespect to the member, a little unbelievable.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Long Island.
There is on a point of clarification. With respect to the corporation, I would note that we made substantial improvements to the water and sewer infrastructure in Abaco. Yes, much more could have been done, but we will also be beset by COVID-19 and the logistical challenge posed with shipping, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking here at a memo received in September from DGM Deal, and it stated here that major works at the Marsh Harbor pumping station had been 95% completed. That included a new $1.5 million imperial gallon storage tank, pumping station, generator building, standby generators, solar system for the well fields, etc. We also, in our Treasure Key water distribution system was 100% complete at the time that I demitted office. Major restoration works have been completed in Green Turtle Key at the customer service and pumping station building. And there was a 750,000 imperial gallon Treasure Key storage tank that at the time was nearly completed. We purchased a number of fleet and other infrastructure. Madam Speaker, essentially what I'm saying is we had been near completion of much of that $16 million worth of works that have been undertaken in Abaco. And there was a lot of those works that, whilst not commissioned, had already been put on stream to provide the people of Abaco with better quality water and with better quality water pressure.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for
My
Freetown.
recollection was that Dorian passed in September 2019. The member is talking about things the state of affairs in 2021. My recollection is that we shut down for the pandemic in March of 2020. Perhaps the member can go away and come back with what his great corporation did for the people of Abaco between September 2019 and March 2020 and compare it with the previous Ingram administration's response to major hurricanes. That's an F&M administration you can compare it to.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Long Island.
Is this? I think the member heard what I said about what we did. The member also heard what we said about the logistical challenges with respect to COVID-19 and the impact on shipping, the impact on acquiring supplies, acquiring parts. These things you must order, and oftentimes they take months to come on a regular basis. But when you throw in COVID-19, it takes an extended period for these items to be acquired and shipped into country. That's on the record.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Freetown.
I hear quite well, and that's why I reminded the House that during past September 2019, we locked down March 2020. It would, and I think the record should be in this House as to how the Ingram administration addressed storms. I do understand that Kalani announced that the Ingram era was over, and that included the Ingram era in the F&M management of hurricanes. But hurricanes happen all of the time. Category 5 storms happen all of the time, every year. The question that I put, Madam Speaker, to the former chairman of the Water and Sewage Corporation is to challenge him to respond to what they did after the passage up to COVID coming up and shutting down this country. If he is unable to do it now, I can understand.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Our response was immediate. You're talking about teams being deployed to Abaco. You're talking about pursuit of various parts, pursuit of the funding, seeking cabinet approval to get additional funding. You're talking about going ahead and pursuing suppliers and supplies to bring them in. And then, of course, COVID came right along, right on the heels of Hurricane Dorian, which impacted supplies, which impacted shipping. So this wasn't an ordinary response to a hurricane. I think that we took on a huge task, and I believe the corporation did its endeavor best, notwithstanding the fiscal challenges, to acquire what was necessary and to put the manpower in place to get water and to execute the task ahead of us, to get water to the people of Abaco.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for
I'm
Freetown.
grateful that Long Island has acknowledged that North Abaco was not a fraud when he and all of the workers from the Water and Sewage Corporation put in many, many hours of overtime for which they were not compensated. I happen to be aware of it because I have previously represented Busawu and its members who were abused by the corporation, having been used as pawns to go into Abaco, work in dangerous situations, work long hours of overtime to accomplish whatever was accomplished, and then were not paid because it was asserted that they did not work the hours of overtime. A workman should never be denied his wages. It, again, is disrespectful.
Yes.
Bring to this place matters that he litigated in another place. I seek to litigate them here. The reality is, I had another discussion a couple of nights ago. There was a report that the corporation relied upon, right? We never said anyone was a fraud, but there was an investigation undertaken internally, and there was a report that spoke to certain concerns with respect to overtime. That report is on the record. He could consult that report if he so wishes. But to come here and seek to be the lawyer in here for clients he may have had out there, that's improper. That's improper.
He is a lawyer too, so he should be aware of the need to assert what rule he says I've broken. Everyone I represent is a
You're not the speaker,
Bahamian citizen.
You're not the speaker.
In this place, we represent Bahamians. As far as I'm aware, we represent Bahamians. Matters that are before the court where it is asserted that Bahamians have been abused, just like the members of the gaming board have been abused, are able
Members,
to be.
Members, let's wrap this up and let's move forward, please.
And so, Madam Speaker.
Members, let's.
Madam Speaker, as I rose, is simply to ask the member what rule he claims was broken.
You just misrepresented
He said that I represented people outside of the house, and I am litigating this in this house. I don't intend to listen to Robert. And so at the end of the day, lawlessness, which is what I drew attention to earlier, clearly the member for Marco City claims they will follow the rules. But you know, to be forgiven for sin, you have to repent. And if you never repent and you continue to sin, then you never get.
The side matters have been discussed. I think, Madam Speaker, we should proceed with this.
Yes, I agree. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Marcus.
Madam Speaker, the member for Freetown raised an issue of sin being committed. What sin was that exactly that was being committed? Help me understand that. Help me understand what is the sin that has been committed. No, we are. Because an assertion was made that if there's to be forgiveness for a sin, one must repent. What sin is he asserting this side has committed? I want to be clear. I want to be clear on that.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Does Madam Speaker require me to answer Marco City? Because if you do, I will. The rules require that if you make assertions, that firstly you state, as it said, who broke the rule, what rule it is you're asserting being broken. I don't intend to address anyone other than Marco City, who as leader of the opposition says he's speaking for how the opposition will conduct themselves. But I rose simply to say, if you say that there's been some breach of the rule, that's a serious allegation, and you should bespeak the rule. I agree with West Grand Bahama that this matter has been ventilated. If somebody wishes to assert the breach of the rules, they can do so.
Yes, sir. Honorable members, if we allow, this will constant back and forth will go on for the next 2 hours. Let us come to a conclusion now that we're going to settle this at a later date, and we're going to continue the debate. Can we further move on? Yes.
No one has stated that the member broke any rule, and he knows that. I said it is improper for this member to seek to come to this place. I'm on my feet, Madam Speaker. I have taken a point of order. I said it's improper for this member to come to this place and seek to litigate matters for his client. This is the second time he's done this. He's done this elsewhere as well. Seek to litigate matters on behalf of his clients. And he's also misrepresented himself in this place by asserting that he has a matter before the court concerning overtime at Water and Sewer Corporation. He knows that that's not true.
The chair is recognizing the honorable member for West Grand Bahama.
Madam Speaker, the member for Long Island in the last session was told to bring in a matter that was before the court that was sub judice.
I didn't bring him up.
A matter that
I did not raise
the matter that was being discussed. Madam Speaker, that is not the debate we're currently in.
I did not raise
We will have that debate at some other time.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, let us continue to debate on the supplementary bill and the VAT.
Thank you very much.
With respect to the matter raised by the acting Prime Minister, and let me say congratulations to you, Member for Ingliston. You raised the question relative to where did the VAT money go and why was it not paid? Right. Yeah. So, but okay. Good. So again, the question that you alluded to had to do with whether or not we had paid down the deficit, because in your estimation, we did not. The national debt, we did not, according to you. So I'd just like to, Madam Speaker, address that particular issue, if I'm permitted.
But honourable member, that was addressed by the member for Kalani.
Madam Speaker, the question was put, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Point
The chair
of order,
recognizes the honourable member for West.
The question was put by the member for North Abaco to the member for Kalani.
Yes,
The
it
member
was.
for Kalani responded to the
Yes.
question that was put.
Yes.
That is the end of that matter, Madam
Yes.
Speaker. We are now, Madam
Yes.
Speaker, must proceed with this debate.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, again, it's not the end of
It was
If
put-
Abaco, if not Abaco, no, South Abaco. Sorry, pause for a moment. If South Abaco asserts that we have not, I'm sorry, I have the ability to speak independently of any other member who speaks in here. So if South Abaco, can you protect me from interruptions, please, Madam Speaker? So if South Abaco asserts that the VAT money was not used appropriately, I would like to then address that particular issue. So you did not assert. Let him then say on the record. Let him then say on the record that he's not taking issue with how the money was used for VAT. Allow him to answer, please.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Central and South Abaco.
I simply asked a question, how it was taken. That is upon others, but where has the VAT money gone and where has the Dorian relief money gone? Particularly, I was reversing what the previous lead to the administration had brought to attention in 2017, but it was a question. So,
Not an accusation.
not an accusation. Now it seems to be a lot of thin skin around here, so I just want to say
Very much so.
a lot of thin skin. But while I'm on my feet, I would also like to address the honourable member from Long Island that shipping.
I'm sorry, I want to stay on this point first. I'm not sure.
Honourable member. Honourable member.
Yes, I'm sorry.
There's a member on. There's a member on this feed.
Okay,
Please respect that.
Moving to another point, Madam Speaker. That's the only point I'm making. Because I want to point one.
But we're moving on. Central and South Abaco, I'm asking you to take your seat because we want to now move on with this debate. And I am saying now as many, and I'm now recognizing the honourable member for Golden Gates.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I thank the Almighty once again for the opportunity to rise to my feet in this honorable place to represent the good people of Golden Gates. I stand here to speak on their behalf in support of the 2021-22 supplementary budget. And before I get started, I want to note that I proudly adorn today an orange pin and wristband that is in support of 16 days of activism. As a mother of 3 daughters, specifically against violence against women and girls, I also adorn a red ribbon in support of today, December 1st, which is World AIDS Day. Since 1988, this would have been observed, bringing awareness to HIV. I continue to enjoy working with and for the great people of Golden Gates. Just last week, we enjoyed a delicious Thanksgiving dinner, and we were able to serve over 600 hot meals to Golden Gates families over the course of 2 days. My amazing team at the Golden Gates constituency office did an excellent job as usual in preparing, hosting, and serving fellow constituents. So I give a special thank you today to Charmaine, Eddie, Casey, Dario, Adriana, Veronique, Travis, Winston, Duran, Kia, Romel, Ralph, Natasha, Mario, Sky Juice King, and of course the entire Golden Gates Captains team. We continue to assist Golden Gates residents with job placements and have helped a number of our people in landing jobs in the private sector. Given the number of families who have experienced deaths, we are continuing our weekly bereavement visits to offer what comfort we can to grieving families. And I would like to take the opportunity to join in with the member from South Africa in giving condolences to the family of Golden Gates resident, the legend, Lundy Robinson, who is a fellow Exumian, a sloop sailing hero, and a 3-time National Family Island Regatta champion. May his soul and the soul of many others in Golden Gates rest in peace. Madam Speaker, community beautification and cleanup led by young men in the constituency, Clovis and Dot, and the Golden Gates Road Generals continues. We have our bereavement committee that is led by Mrs. Hudson, Sophie, Carla, Michelle, Jerome, Ernestine, and assisted by Larry. We at Golden Gates are exploring improved permanent lighting solutions for the Golden Gates parks. I'm also happy to report that we are in the process of putting street signs up in Pride Estates and have contracted a private company to patch potholes through Golden Gates. The residents are very excited and they send videos and pictures to me all day of the work that is being done. But there is more to come. As I know, the residents have been looking forward to these improvements for a very long time. And I'm happy to do whatever I can on behalf of the constituents of Golden Gates to assist my people. Madam Speaker, before continuing with my remarks and in his absence, I'd like to congratulate my friend and the member for Marco City on his ascension to leader of his party. I look forward to working with him where possible and vigorously debating with him where not, but best wishes in his role. Madam Speaker, every runner knows that one of the keys to running a strong race is having a good start. We've seen many examples on the biggest stage where runners relaxed too much at the start, only to sprint desperately at the end of the race, trying to make up for lost ground. Unfortunately, this does not usually end well for the runner. We've seen this example many times in politics as well, most recently with the previous administration. After a landslide victory, it can be tempting for incoming administrations to rest on their laurels, to bask in the glory of their recently won mandate, and take their time to recover from a hard-fought campaign. So as was the case with those opposite, we often see administrations squander the opportunities for their first few years. But this Davis administration knows better than that. We understand that the first 2 years of an administration's terms sets the foundation for what the administration is able to achieve. We all have heard the familiar excuse when politicians start. Oh, things were worse off than we thought, so we can't do what we said we would do. The cupboards are bare. The problem is Bahamian people are not interested in excuses. Excuses don't put money in bank accounts and food on tables. The F&M learned the hard way that the only thing excuses are good for is getting you voted out of office. Madam Speaker, to be clear, there are a lot of revelations that have emerged since we've taken office. There are discrepancies in figures reported before the election, pending downgrades, and liabilities upon liabilities left unpaid. So yes, it is a fact that things are far worse than the previous administration was letting on. This is why their former leader recently said that he called an early election. He wanted a new mandate from the people because some hard decisions would have to be made. They knew these hard decisions were incoming, even as they framed their final budget with rosy pictures and fancy words. Madam Speaker, the difference between us and them is that we don't put our faith in excuses. Yes, we have inherited a difficult situation. But while we acknowledge the failures of the F&M's fiscal and economic policies, we refuse to allow their mistakes to prevent us from pursuing the transformative agenda that this nation needs. The Davis administration is about results. And I have to say, when it comes to our results, the proof is in the pudding. Yes. I believe that most Bahamians would say, so far, so good. You know, Madam Speaker, as I move about the country, citizens I come in contact with, at least in the past week, about 4 or 5 of them have quoted Proverbs 29:2. It says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people groan. Madam Speaker, we understand the urgency of this moment, the importance of coming through the door on day one, full steam ahead to build momentum on delivering our agenda. And our race is off to a good start. The member for Kalani saw fit to comment on the amount of traveling we've been doing. Members of the government have been traveling on important diplomatic missions, rebuilding international relations that were left in shambles, and representing the nation on the international stage as government officials do. I find his comments particularly funny, given that we are also traveling around the country to assess the damage and neglect that his administration visited upon this nation. I know they would like us to stay still and not investigate what went on under their watch, but this is a matter of due diligence.
I like that.
As we build out our agenda, we will do so with direct stakeholder input and consultations, which requires a degree of travel. If they have a problem with us doing our job, then I don't know what to say, but maybe they should have done a better job when they were in office. Madam Speaker, in just over 2 months, look at how much has changed in this country. They said that COVID-19 numbers would go up if we did what we promised to do during the election. Since Election Day, we've removed the curfew, ended the emergency orders, and allowed more businesses to open their doors and keep them open every day. Spas are open. Jet ski rental businesses are in operation. The straw market is open for business, allowing Bahamian entrepreneurs to take care of their families again. And COVID numbers are still down. Sounds like a new day to me. We have de-emphasized the aggressive targeting of lower income neighborhoods when it comes to enforcing COVID-19 protocols. This was necessary because under the F&M, we saw roadside vendors arrested instead of assisted. We've seen over-the-hill bars and liquor stores shut down while establishments in high-income neighborhoods were allowed to remain open. We've seen the government refuse to reveal the names of business owners who received contracts during the pandemic, while dishing out sweetheart contracts to known political operatives. With the ending of the emergency orders, we put an end to one-man rule and an end to the lack of transparency that defined the former administration.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Marco City.
I would ask if the member for Golden Gates would please indicate by laying on the table who the political operatives were who received contracts, or withdraw it until such time as she's able to do so, please.
I would be happy to lay a number of documents that would substantiate my claim. Until such time as I have the documents present, I will yield. I will withdraw. But I do have a number that I'm willing to bring to lay on the table.
Thank you, honorable member.
We now have in place a research-backed expert-approved body of legislation allowing us to effectively manage the pandemic without violating constitutional rights. We are now rolling out free COVID testing across the nation. They said it was just an election promise. They said that it was unrealistic and could not be done. If there's anything that reveals the reason why they are in opposition today, Madam Speaker, it is their lack of imagination, their utter lack of commitment to confronting the hard problems we face as a nation. Where they saw the impossible, we saw endless possibilities. And that is why we were able to deliver where they failed. The dawn of a new day is here, Madam Speaker, and the supplementary budget we are debating today will set the foundation for that new day as we lead this country in a new direction. Our vision for this new day is a far more fair and equitable society. We are putting an end to the blatant favoritism for a select few, while the rest of the nation falls to the wayside. Take a look at our team, not just in this parliament, but also the various executives appointed throughout the civil service. You will see the most diverse administration in the modern Bahamas. The Davis administration has ensured that young people and women are sitting in key decision-making positions. We have even reached across the aisle, regardless of political affiliation, to ensure that those with experience to have a seat at the table that we can offer them. We are able to do this because we are focused on results, not politics. We understand that diverse perspectives are needed to deliver on our holistic agenda. The Davis administration represents competent, compassionate leadership for everyone. There is room for Bahamians from all walks of life at our table. Madam Speaker, because of the fierce urgency of the moment we are in, we wasted no time in getting this supplementary budget together. There was far too much work to be done for us to wait until June to begin working on our agenda. Considering the difference in priorities between the Davis administration and the previous administration, it was absolutely necessary that we brought in a budget that better reflected our priorities. Within this budget, you can see the stark difference between us and those opposite. Where we have made reallocations, we have done so to better reflect our ministerial portfolios. We have identified savings and wastage in multiple ministries that resulted in decreased expenditures. The government is in the process of conducting an audit, which I'm sure will identify even more opportunities for streamlining and savings. When it comes to restoring the long-term fiscal health of the nation, the supplementary budget is putting in place the necessary resources to ensure that we are able to effectively solve our financial woes. We are seeing the full deployment and empowerment of the Revenue Enhancement Unit to cut back on tax avoidance and fraud. We are seeing the Public Debt Advisory Committee being set up to help us to better manage new and existing debt. We will also see a new Revenue Policy Committee comprised of the best and brightest financial and economic minds that will develop the policies to help us meet our targeted 25% revenue to GDP ratio by the end of our term. Madam Speaker, beyond addressing the nation's fiscal situation, this budget is also about bringing immediate relief to the Bahamian people. We are especially focused on helping the most vulnerable amongst us, and there are several ways we are accomplishing this. The one that has seemingly drawn the most attention is the VAT decrease from 12% to 10%. So despite all the noise in the market behind our decision, we have support from modeling done by the University of the Bahamas. We have recommendations from the IMF, and we have the support of private sector financial experts and economists. So the across-the-board decrease is simply better. So you see, Brent Simonet and other political operatives will go on the news and direct your attention to a narrow list of items that will no longer be zero rated. They want you to believe that that is all that is in this budget for you. They want you to believe that these things are all that matters. They don't talk about the fact that you will pay less VAT on every item in the grocery store, including fruits and vegetables. They don't tell you that you will pay less on vehicles, plane tickets, and utility bills. They don't tell you that the rich were benefiting more. And I'm sure they knew it because they read the same IMF report that we did. Maybe that's why they're so upset, though. We're getting rid of a system that is benefiting them. We're putting the money in the pockets of Bahamians who need it most. So let me say it again. The VAT decrease is a part of a package that not only gives you 2% savings for every purchase, but also gives retirees more pension money, allows civil servants to return to getting annual increments so their salaries can better keep pace with the cost of living increases. It's extending benefits for the unemployed while giving them a $500 lump sum payment for Christmas. So to those opposite, if we're going to talk about this budget, let's talk about it in its totality. There really is no debating it. We are delivering relief for the Bahamian people, and we are doing it as we are setting the foundation to improve the government's fiscal situation. I encourage the Bahamian people to listen to the research, listen to the data, listen to the experts. Don't allow a few bitter politicians still stinging from an election loss to muddy the waters on this. Simply put, the across-the-board decrease from 12% to 10% is better. It is a decrease on everything rather than a select few items. It is also not working in isolation. You see, Madam Speaker, the whole point of getting rid of the zero-rated items was because the zero rating is proven to benefit the rich more than the poor. And that is not my opinion. You can find a lot of information to support this, included in that report I mentioned from the IMF. Simplifying the tax code makes it easier and cheaper to collect on. So in layman's terms, the Davis administration is doing a lot to get rid of a taxation system that benefited the rich, and we are now delivering direct relief for people who need it. The tax decrease is not intended to work in isolation. It is a part of a relief package that includes the increase in pension payouts, the return of annual increments, the extension of unemployment benefits, and a $500 lump sum payment for unemployment beneficiaries in December. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the Permanent Secretary and the hardworking teams at the Ministry of Public Service. Within the Ministry of Public Service, we are forming a special unit to look at the backlog of promotions and clear it up while ensuring that we never face a backlog of this magnitude ever again. That is being accomplished under this budget. We are also using the existing budget to accelerate the digitalization of HR processes and document management across the public service. Altogether, government recurrent expenditures has increased by $53.3 million, largely influenced by increases in public service pensions, COVID-19 unemployment benefit assistance, and public service promotions and increments to the tune of $19,620,583. As Minister of State for the Public Service, I'm happy to directly and indirectly facilitate these initiatives in any way that I can, knowing that Bahamian people will greatly benefit as this new budget is rolled out. Madam Speaker, in recent weeks, I've mentioned that there was a number of people who were improperly engaged by the previous government and did not have placements. These people were the victims of political hiring gone wrong. Unfortunately, it is difficult to accommodate many of them within the public service. However, we are understanding of this situation. It wasn't all their fault. So a week ago, I reached out to the private sector, and so far over 40 of these people will now be working in the private sector instead of lingering in the limbo of their unplaced status within the public service. Even if they're not working for government, we want these people to know that we will support them as best we can. Contrary to the side opposite's comments that we would be letting people go, we are working to ensure that we are finding placement for these people who are engaged in the private sector. It's hard to believe that it's been less than 3 months since the Davis administration first came into office. And in that short time, we've achieved a significant amount of progress. We have completely revamped the country's approach to managing the pandemic through a new legislative framework. We have built a winning team throughout the public service and government-owned entities. And we are about to lower the VAT rate and bring a new budget to the Bahamian people that addresses the fiscal situation while bringing vulnerable citizens relief. We are off to a great start. Yes. And I want the Bahamian people to know that we intend to sustain this success. We are still accelerating the rebuilding of our hurricane-ravaged islands and investing in developing the blue, green, and orange economies. We are still revamping national investment policies and promotional strategies, investing heavily in education and training. There's so much left to do to take this country in a new direction. Madam Speaker, I want the Bahamian people to know that we are working every day on their behalf. My cabinet colleagues and I are dedicated to delivering this transformative agenda for the benefit of all Bahamians. Everyone knows that the Bahamas cannot continue to do what it's always done. The recent spate of disasters and crises have exposed the weaknesses within our economic model and our public systems. Buried within this time of crisis is the opportunity to bounce back better than ever before. I am proud to be a part of an administration that is truly working for the good of the people. I, along with Golden Gates, stand in full endorsement and support of this supplementary budget and all that it would deliver for the Bahamian people. It is an important first step in the right direction. And if these first 2.5 months are any indication, I look forward to what this Davis administration will be able to achieve for the next 5 years. May God bless the great people of Golden Gates. May God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Asmini. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Garden Hills.
Madam Speaker, again I rise in this most honorable place as a humble servant who has been granted the awesome privilege to represent the great people of the Garden Hills constituency. I remain most thankful and appreciative to God who, in his infinite wisdom, has so also placed me here for such a time as this. I thank God for his blessings. I too am most thankful and appreciative to the people of Garden Hills who in their infinite wisdom saw hope and help in a new day. A new day filled with opportunities for every single Bahamian to dream and to see those dreams come to reality. Madam Speaker, I also use this opportunity to express condolences to a sporting icon in sailing to the family of Captain Nandi Robinson. I further extend condolences to Yvonne Nordich, Sherry Sanders, and the Clark Johnson families on the passings of their loved ones. May the souls and the souls of the dearly departed rest in peace. Today, Madam Speaker, I rise to support the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, our Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, in tabling the 2021-22 supplementary budget. Our government is in the initial stage of enacting our blueprint for change. The blueprint lays out our vision, policies, and plans for a new direction, for a better way forward. So today, we are here to advance our country forward, upward, and onward together. Madam Speaker, I've been granted the enviable task of leading our government's mandate and mission relative to the youth, sports, and culture affairs. As the minister responsible, I am here to account to the Bahamian people, a task I take very seriously. Madam Speaker, some 19 million was approved right here in this place in the annual budget debate as the allocation to the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture. In this supplementary budget exercise, that amount has been revised and reduced by 10%, totaling some 1.9 million. Therefore, our 2021-2022 supplementary budget being presented today amounts to just a little over some $17 million for personal expenditures, including administration programs and projects for the advancements of the government's youth, sports, and culture initiatives. Madam Speaker, I now turn my attention to the three pillars of my portfolio, starting with the Division of Youth. Madam Speaker, the role and function of the Division of Youth continues to be prominent in our society. It is one of facilitation, creation, implementation, and enhancements of services, programs, and projects for young people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The Division of Youth remains grateful, and indeed, to its fruitful partners with stakeholders, youth organizations, youth leaders, youth workers, youth advocates, youth allies, and their respective places and spheres in influence. They provide tangible and intangible resources to the youth of our nation. Madam Speaker, the Division of Youth sustained budget cuts in the past. It will not be subjected to any cuts in this supplementary budget. This division will begin aggressive preparations to bring new programs on stream and continue with existing programs. The Division of Youth remains the forerunner and leads the way in ensuring that the young Bahamians have a multitude of opportunities and resources for which to choose. These programs include the Youth Leaders Certification Program. The Youth Leaders Certification Programs, highly subscribed training programs, equip those enrolled with emerging trends, techniques, and methods of youth work and development. Through these programs, we are able to standardize the training of youth leaders and equalize the service developed our young people on a national level. Further, Madam Speaker, this program is also to assist the formulation of basic concepts regarding the roles and functions of youth organizations and youth bands in the country. Madam Speaker, the current budget allocation for this program is some $30,000, which will enable us to facilitate 2 cycles. $18,000 will be used to execute this program in New Providence and some $12,000 for the Grand Bahama program. These cycles will be facilitated on both islands on our projected date of March 2022. As we are expected to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols, 50 aspiring youth leaders will be engaged on our New Providence cohort, with another 30 being engaged in Grand Bahama. These numbers permit us to execute the programs in a safe environment. Madam Speaker, the Fresh Start program is the hallmark of the ministry, which in this budget has been allocated some $270,000. The Fresh Start program prepares its participant between the ages of 18 and 25 years old to appropriately prepare for employment, identify potential employment opportunities, improve personal qualifications, and job search skills, and make sound professional and personal decisions while gaining momentum and confidence for their journey ahead. Madam Speaker, my ministry intends to again offer this all-important program through the use of our usual tried and tested and proven face-to-face model. These Fresh Start programs have a projected launch date for February 2022 for both Grand Bahama and New Providence. And again, recognizing that we must abide by the COVID-19 protocols, 50 young people will be participating in the programs in New Providence, with another 60 participating in Grand Bahama. Madam Speaker, of the 270,000 allocated for this program, 140 is allocated for the Grand Bahama cohort, with the remaining 130,000 being allocated for New Providence. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform colleagues that through this program, we equip our participants with the competencies that will enable them to perform amongst their best and brightest counterparts. In New Providence, our participants will receive training in mixology, butlering, culinary arts, housekeeping, critical skills, beauty trades, agriculture and farming, carpentry, and graphic design. Similarly, our colleagues, the participants in Grand Bahama cohort, will receive training in construction, sales and cashing, general maintenance, office procedure, information technology, and graphic design. Madam Speaker, our Job Ready program, we also look forward with the great anticipation of the resumption of the Job Ready program, which equips our youths ages 16 to 18 with soft skills and job readiness training that would make them better candidates for long-term employment. The overall objective of this program includes improving job searching and network abilities, enhancing interpersonal skills, applicable for the work of environment, enhancing interpersonal skills, and stimulating desire for further professional development. Madam Speaker, 80,000 has been set aside for the Job Ready program. That amount is to be equally shared between our program's offerings in New Providence and Grand Bahama. We anticipate the New Providence cycle to commence in February 2022. Madam Speaker, the Job Ready program, Grand Bahama cohort, commenced on October 25th of this year with 40 energized young participants. I am excited for these young people, and I will participate in their graduation exercise in a few days. I encourage the corporate community of Grand Bahama to embrace this and similar youth programs by giving our precious young people an opportunity to further develop their new skills. Madam Speaker, I will not forget you. Madam Speaker, in an effort to further reduce unemployment among Bahamian young people and to help to stimulate the economic growth in our communities, my ministry launched the Be Inspired program in March 2019, which replaced the previous known Self-Starter program. This initiative is a government-funded grant-based program designed to empower young Bahamian entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 and 35 years who are seeking to establish and expand their small business concepts. Be Inspired provides aspiring entrepreneurs who possess a strong and viable small business idea with the tools and other resources necessary to successfully launch and manage their businesses. Successful applicants are awarded grants up to $5,000, which enables them to procure goods and materials needed for their business ventures. Madam Speaker, in our budget, the total of $300,000 has been allocated to execute this program for 2021-2022 cycle. Madam Speaker, we are so pleased to announce that 30 applicants have already been processed to the tune of some $137,000. These young people are eagerly waiting funding. Further, in the upcoming weeks, an additional $150,000 in funding will be made available to another 30 applicants. Colleagues, these programs was designed to prove complete support to these participants every step of the way. They receive training prior to receiving funds. A mentor from our Mentorship Council is assigned to each applicant for a period of 12 months. These mentors will provide feedback, support, and guidance, financial tips, and best practices that will help these new budding entrepreneurs with public awareness and aid in the marketing or promotion of their business. Madam Speaker, our National Youth Policy. Madam Speaker, the Division of Youth has a focus on a multi-tiered pathway to update the draft National Youth Policy. To this end, $70,000 has been allocated in the supplementary budget, which will be used to formulate a strategy to review, modernize, and address the gaps in the draft policy and outline a clear and concise approach to design and present a retooled document together with accompanying legislation, which will provide a framework to ensure the advancement of our youth development in our country. Youth in Parliament. Madam Speaker, you will be pleased to note that this year my ministry is pleased to present a very special edition of Youth in Parliament during a special Youth in Parliament week scheduled for January 23rd to 29, 2022. We will officially observe 20 years of young people assessing these hallowed halls. I encourage all to stay tuned for more details on this and all other exciting initiatives.
Excellent.
At this time, Madam Speaker, I wish to extend gratitude to the team of the Division of Youth, who, in the face of challenges that seem insurmountable, especially during this pandemic, continue to ensure that every deserving youth is celebrated for their accomplishments, that young people are exposed to opportunities that will empower them and provide the support and guidance necessary to position them to reach their true potential. Madam Speaker, I move to the Department of Sports. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture reflects the spirit of our nation and expresses the extent of resilience and characterizes the nature of its Bahamian people. Madam Speaker, sports is an investment in health, vitality, productivity of our people, an investment in their future socially. Its benefits include an overall improvement in the quality of life and the physical, mental, and moral well-being of a population. The impact of sports and recreation is also felt in many other spheres of life like education, economy, crime, nation building, and international relations. Successful athletes serve as a role model for the youth of our country and as an unofficial ambassadors as they demonstrate equality and fairness through their dedication and commitment in competition. The visibility of sports readiness, gender inequalities, and discrimination against disabled and minorities. But perhaps the most important of all is the role of fostering national unity. Sports through community building creates avenues, particularly for youth. Introductory sporting programs bring structure, provides more opportunities for our youth, taking them off the couch and into the field that can yield success. These programs can make difference in the lives of our youth, who are subject to the criminal elements in various communities. Idle young people are vulnerable to bad influence. But these planned sporting events give them an opportunity to expose their talents. Madam Speaker, I ask, should our investment into country be solely to build more prisons, rehabilitation centers, and funeral homes? Or should we prioritize more funding into the youth through sports and community programs? I will answer that for you. Let's save the children.
That's right.
Madam Speaker, to have at least a fighting chance to rescue our youth from prevailing social ills, to have a fighting chance of preserving the mental health of our people, to have a fighting chance of reducing crime and violence, it is paramount that we place greater financial priority to the mandate and to the impact potential of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Yes. Research has proven that investing in national sports programs and initiatives has tremendous benefits to an economy. International sporting events held here at home brought tremendous exposure and revenue to the country far beyond millions of marketing dollars. The success of our top international sporting athletes further helps to bring attention and business to the country. Madam Speaker, despite budget cuts over the past 2 years, the Department of Sports continues to endeavor to provide financial assistance to a number of sporting organizations, assisting them in functioning as best they can. For most, the assistance provides some relief. Regrettably, however, programs geared towards exposing young athletes to competition had to be postponed. Events such as the high school and primary school track and field championships and the Father Marshall Peterson basketball championships, all of which previously provided opportunities for quality competition and exposure for our young students athletes, many of whom would have traveled from the Family Islands to participate. Major regional sporting competitions like the Carifta Games were also too adversely affected and were canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Evidence, however, strongly suggests a positive turn in the economy whereby sports and its related activities are returning to normal. One sign in this, Madam Speaker, is the announcement return of the Carifta Games, which was canceled over the past two years, but now set to return in April 2022. Madam Speaker, the budget allocation for the National Endowment for Sports in its fiscal period is some $805,000, has not been affected by the severe measures of trimming the ministry's budget allocation. This shows how the previous administration viewed sports and its impact, not only in our youth, but our country as a whole. It was very unpopular in their eyes. Therefore, we saw no projected impact to any of the ministry's sporting programs which would have been offered in the previous fiscal period. Madam Speaker, the budget was too small from the beginning. The budget was too small from the beginning. That's what I'm saying. Madam Speaker, the primary budget line item for sports is the National Endowment for Sports. From this item, grants to federations and sporting associations, Carifta Travels, assistance, and the ministry programs, among other sporting initiatives throughout the Bahamas, are funded. Only $805,000. Some of our projected expenditure for the remaining parts of the fiscal period include travel assistance to the 2022 Carifta Game teams and grant assistance to sporting federations and sporting associations. These two items alone consume the remaining funds available. However, the Department of Sports is carefully planning an array of new programs and initiatives aligned with our blueprint for change for the new and upcoming fiscal period of 2022 and 2023. Our anticipated budget, Madam Speaker, will address the Family Island sporting's infrastructure, attracting the region and the world once again to our shores by strengthening our Sports in Paradise brand, among other things. Madam Speaker, the sports persons have always served as successful goodwill ambassadors. Just look at Frank Rutherford, Mark Knowles, Pauline Davis, and Buddy Hill, just to name a few. Madam Speaker, my ministry continues to work and invest in the development of sports throughout the country. Our mission is to create the access and opportunity for our athletes and administrators to flourish in both athletic competitions and also in the business of sports. Madam Speaker, our athletics have remained resilient as ever. They have continued to exercise, stay fit the best way they can. They have determined and prepared for the eventual return of their various competitions. We must do what we need to maintain our level of performance on the international stages. As we prepare for the transformation, as mentioned, we will need to improve all of the sporting infrastructures to assist our athletes through their various federations and providing administrations with the adequate funding. This is the only way we will see effective sporting programs putting our youth in the driver's seat. Madam Speaker, I now turn to the Department of Culture. Madam Speaker, culture is one of the main pillars of development and sustenance, and our country cannot progress in its absence or neglect. Culture defines who we are as a people, our history, and our legacy. As a repository of knowledge, meaning, and the value as the permeate all aspects of our lives, culture teaches us about ourselves and also defines the way we as Bahamians live and interact, both local and global scale. Our national identity is expressed through our culture, and it is extremely important for our nation building. The quality of life of an individual, and by extension our Bahamian society, depends on being able to take part in and benefit from the culture of our country. Madam Speaker, the following are programs and initiatives that the Division of Culture will embark upon utilizing the funds allocated in the 2021-22 budget, supplementary budget. Approximately $500,000 will be spent during the months of January to June 2022. Madam Speaker, the Majority Rule Day celebrations. Madam Speaker, the next year we will spotlight a celebration of the historic events and people who brought about the freedom we enjoy today. And we have set aside some $25,000 to be allocated. The Clement Bethel National Arts Festival. Madam Speaker, this is truly national festival is divided into 4 categories: drama, dance, art and craft, and music. The festival is open to all Bahamians and legal residents of Bahamas and begins in February. Persons and organizations will submit their entries digitally and will be adjudicated by a panel of qualified and certified professionals in their respective fields. A virtual presentation will be held toward those who win their categories and to acknowledge the hard work of their instructors. This is one of the stellar programs of the Division of Culture, and $130,000 has been budgeted for this year's festival. The virtual Junkanoo competitions in the Family Islands. Madam Speaker, let's not forget our Family Islanders. The Family Islands Junkanoo season. The Family Island Junkanoo seasons run from December to June. Beginning January 2022, each island will hold a virtual Junkanoo competitions in place of their regular scheduled Junkanoo parade. These competitions will showcase the best cowbellas, the best choreographed dancers, best drummers, and best indigenous costume in each island or area. The island winners of these various categories will then compete against each other for the top prize from all Family Island Junkanoo winners. An allocation of $130,000 has been budgeted for this exciting program. Culture grants. Madam Speaker, the Division of Culture will continue to assist creative and cultural practitioners, organizations with their cultural events and cultural exchange through the provision of small cultural grants. A total of $75,000 has been allocated. Culture and creative art works and seminars. Madam Speaker, my ministry and the Division of Culture will offer workshops, seminars, and master classes and training opportunities in the areas of music, dance, fashion, film, drama, visual arts, creative writing, legal establishments, and businesses management. Some $50,000 has been allocated for this purpose. After school programs, Madam Speaker, some $50,000 too will be allocated to use for the community outreach rehabilitative programs in the arts, such as music, dance, culinary arts, fashion, storytelling, film, literary writing, and much more. My ministry intends to partner with various after-school organizations and institutions in this regard. Madam Speaker, the Department of Culture has as its mission to enable a vibrant Bahamian culture that celebrates, preserves, promotes, stimulates cultural expression and heritage and economy and community life. A dynamic culture sector is a requirement for a well-functioning public affair and is a powerful driver for development with social, economic, environmental impacts. To ensure unity during crisis is a vehicle for social cohesion and stability and influences debate and dialogue. It has a positive influence on social development and increases the intellectual potential and conscious capacity of a country, but only if it's properly nurtured through funding and support. Madam Speaker, historically, my ministry has been underfunded. The ministry to which little is given, but much is expected. It is my opinion, however, that if the children are our future, if we are to remain a sporting power, and if we truly treasure all things Bahamian, then we must invest resources sufficiently into the vehicle capable of driving our youth into the future. That vehicle, Madam Speaker, is the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture. Nonetheless, Madam Speaker, good things are happening in our nation. Based on our budget planning and financial analysts, this government has developed a formula which will be best for our people during these most difficult financial times. The decrease in VAT from 12 to 10% is the most prudent transactional move the government could implement at this time. Per review of the revenue generated of the 12% VAT scheme, this country found itself in a position where there was not enough monies earned uncollected to assist the government in meeting their operational needs. A study performed by the IMF in September of this year predicted that the government would have had to increase its VAT rate to 15%. This 15% increase would have been very difficult to the many Bahamians who currently are already experiencing major hardships. Madam Speaker, I thank the government for putting the interests of the Bahamian people first, the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I thank the Almighty God for his continued and bountiful blessings over our Commonwealth. Madam Speaker, may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central and...
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And to the Minister, let me commend you for a very good report. And I certainly give you the thumbs up. You mentioned in your budget allocation that $70,000 is allocated for the National Youth Policy. I would say in the face of what we are experiencing now as a nation, violence against children and women, that seriously we consider increasing that budget. Because it's something that we fought for. It's something that's very critical to their protection and their empowerment. So while I'm not in the cabinet, I really would like for the cabinet to consider increasing that budget so that we can pay serious attention to the National Youth Policy, have it upgraded, and also have it implemented. So just it's a request on behalf of the youth of the nation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. As many?
Madam Speaker,
Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Anne's.
I rise to reserve my spot.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension for the lunch break to resume at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
All those in favor? It has been moved and seconded that the business of this House be suspended until 3 p.m. All, as many are in favor, shall remain seated. All those opposed shall rise. The motion is carried. The business of this House is suspended until 3 p.m.
All right.